Hey Kev, let's follow this trail over here. This looks like there might be something waiting down there.
All right. Hey, wait a minute. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I thought it was just me. What the heck is that?
I don't know what that is. Whoa, do you smell that too?
That's unbelievable. Hey, look.
What the?
Hey, look, those branches are moving over there.
What the heck is that?
Holy cow, is that what I think it is? Look at that thing.
Oh my God.
It's a freaking Sasquatch.
Welcome to the Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters podcast. I am your host, W.J. Sheehan. Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to our show. My name is W.J. Sheehan, author of the series of books, Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters. 9 volumes available in paperback and ebook at Amazon. And if you're an audiophile, you can pick up volumes 1 through 8 and soon to be volume 9 at Audible, iTunes, and Amazon as well. So do go out and pick up a copy or 2, and you'll make me very happy. And now, may I introduce you to my brother and co-host, KJ Sheehan. Kev, how are you?
I'm doing great, Bill, and happy almost Merry Christmas to you.
Yes, happy almost Merry Christmas to you and everybody else.
Exactly. We are closing in on Christmas 2022. And today, in fact, is our annual Christmas episode.
Hey, Kev, I'm a little disappointed. I keep checking the mailbox. I haven't gotten any presents from any of the listeners. I was hoping for an autographed copy of my book.
Hey, wait, that's my line. And before we get into it, Bill, I didn't tell you about this, but I was driving. I was down in Atlanta. I flew down to Atlanta this week for work, drove up from Atlanta to Charlotte for some customer meetings, and then was driving home from Charlotte to Raleigh in North Carolina here, and it was pouring rain. The traffic reports were terrible. So I said, let me just take the back roads home, and I could stay away from the trucks and stuff and maybe see some interesting flora and fauna.
And Bigfoot.
Yeah, well, I didn't see a Bigfoot, but I can't, you're going to think I'm exaggerating. But I am not exaggerating. I'm riding along in the woods in western North Carolina, kind of northeast of Charlotte. So any of you folks out there, if you've seen this thing, take a picture of it and send it in to us, and I will post it. But I was cruising along, and I look out my left window at this house that's set back from the road, and they have what looks like a dog man standing on its hind legs. Bill, I'm telling you, about 15 feet high, and it's holding a head in its right paw, standing on its hind legs with blood dripping from its mouth.
So what's wrong with that?
Well, I would have turned around and pulled up and taken a picture, but I was terrified. I have never seen anything like this. It was unbelievable. It was so creepy, and it was huge.
Uh-huh.
So, folks, if you've seen this thing, take a picture of it, send it to me. I'll post it so people can appreciate what I'm talking about here.
Now, what do you think it was? A sculpture or inflatable? What the heck
it
are you
wasn't
looking?
an inflatable. So it was like, I don't know, Bill. It was creep fest.
Yeah, I never saw anything like that. Even in that animatronic Halloween decoration.
No, I know. Well, I was talking about that one of our listeners sent the link into that you could get at Home Depot, which was totally creepy. I think that thing was 8 feet tall.
Yeah,
This
man.
thing was huge.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you think somebody went to the time of making it? Some talented artisan?
I don't know. I don't know what it was.
Wow. Well, thankfully it wasn't rushing towards your car.
I'll tell you what, you don't need an alarm, one of those little alarm signs on your front lawn if you have that, though. Forget about being protected by ADP or whatever. No, don't worry. What the heck's going on in this warped person's head?
The house in the woods with a couple of chainsaws hanging on the porch.
Exactly. Come to the door with a hockey mask on.
Unbelievable. Well, that's bad. I tell you, that's pretty creepy, man.
Bill, if you see the picture of this thing, you're going to be like, oh my God.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Well, some people have a strange sense of humor, you know?
Oh, yeah. It's beautiful.
Oh, man. Hey, you want to come over to my house and play some games after school?
Yeah, just stop by. We're having playgroup.
Yeah. Look for the house with the 15-foot dog man and blood dripping out of his mouth.
Yeah, holding a head. It could be yours.
It could be yours. It might be yours. Well, Kev, so what do we have in our Cryptids in the News and Other Oddities segment for today?
Well, first, Bill, we're
Yes?
going to continue our tradition, and I'm going to read the Twas the Night Before Christmas, the Bigfoot edition.
Bigfoot edition.
And I've made a few changes, enhancements this year, and kept some of the great stuff there as well.
All right.
So, of course, this poem is adapted with great liberties taken from the great Clement Clark Moore. So if any of his relatives are out there, I will apologize in advance. All right, we ready?
I'm ready, man.
All right.
Hit the gas.
'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The cameras were loaded and set up with care, in hopes that a large Bigfoot soon would be there. The hikers were nestled all snug in their tents, while visions of Sasquatch danced in their heads. And Bill, holding a Glock and Kevin a cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out in the camp there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the cot to see what was the matter. Away to the tent flap I flew like a flash, tore open the zippers and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects aglow. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a giant sleigh with 8 freaky creatures, with a large hairy driver, so smelly yet stealth. I knew in a moment it must be Saint Squatch. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Rougarou, now Nessie, now Yeti and Dogman, on Momo, on Champy, on Mothman, and Yowie. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the mountaintop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys and Saint Squatch too. And then in a twinkling I heard up top the trampling and crunching of each huge pop. As I drew in my hand and was turning around, into the cabin Saint Squatch came with a bound. He was all covered in hair from his head to his foot, and his odor was strong and would stun many a foot. a bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, all scary and red. His cheeks were coal, and his nose like the dead. His huge, ugly mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a stick he held tight in his teeth, and the stench of it circled his head like a wreath. He had broad shoulders and was 9 feet tall. The cabin shook like jelly when he rolled into it like a ball. He was broad and lean, a right angry old beast, and I froze when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, out the cabin he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like a high-powered cruise missile. But I heard him exclaim, as he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night." But when he said that, it sounded like Chinese or Russian gibberish, of course.
Saint Squatch.
All right, jolly old beast.
Yeah. I don't know if the kids would be too happy seeing Saint Squatch.
No, I don't think so. Especially in a sleigh pulled by all those cryptids. You might have had Spring Hill Jack in the back as an elf.
Yeah.
Maybe some black-eyed children.
Yeah.
We're
Hard
just here to help. Can we come in?
Yeah. Hard to keep Spring Heel sitting in the seat, though.
I know. I'd be
Hey,
bouncing.
Spring Heel, sit down. You're making the sleigh fly funny. Oh, man. The night before Christmas, Squatch style. Well, I'm glad I had a Glock.
Exactly. And then, Bill, we are going to talk a little bit about my favorite Christmas cryptid.
Uh-huh.
And I know we've mentioned them before, but folks, if you haven't Googled this creature, you got to check it out after the podcast.
Uh-huh.
It's good old Krampus.
Ah, yes. A right gnarly old chap.
The more I read about Krampus, Bill, the creepier it gets.
Yeah. I can't frankly believe that people actually embraced this character.
I found some new photographs, which I will put up on our website under this episode, podcast 178 at BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com. Because some of these pictures, like old-timey 1900 photographs of Krampus walking along with someone dressed up like St. Nicholas as part of like a Christmas pageant. So, let's back up for some of the folks that don't know Krampus. So Krampus has been around for centuries in Central and Eastern Europe as a tradition. And basically, Krampus is believed to have come out and accompanied St. Nicholas when visiting people on St. Nicholas Day, which is traditionally December 5th in Europe. And St. Nicholas would come and give gifts and candy and chocolate and oranges, and dried fruit, walnuts, stuff like that, all good things to children. And Krampus would be coming along in case the children were bad, and he would leave them birch rods, which I think meant he would hit them with birch rods.
Come on, man.
And Krampus, okay, folks, St. Nicholas looks a bit like a bishop, you know what I mean? He has on a beautiful gold and white vestment and the mitered cap, that's gold and white. And then, of course, walking along next to him is Krampus, which is this horned, hideous beast with a forked tail carrying a pitchfork
Oh, my
and
God.
huge fangs. I mean, like, this is the craziest thing ever, right?
Yeah. Let's go take a picture with Krampus.
No, I said grandpa, not Krampus. I'm a little kid. I just can't talk that clearly.
You can't make me.
You can't make me. I don't want Krampus. I want a grandpa.
That's not Grandpa.
So this gets better, folks. So
All
we
right.
have this. It's been going on for a long time. So in 1932, during the election in Austria, the Krampus tradition was prohibited at that point. Okay?
Yeah.
And in the 1950s, the same government there in Austria distributed pamphlets, easy for me to say, titled Krampus is an Evil Man.
How could you jump to such a conclusion?
I know. I mean, he's got this long tongue and
Yeah.
fangs and huge goat horns, a forked tail,
Harmless.
hooves. You know, come on.
Come on.
What's wrong with that?
Get with the program.
What's wrong with that? So then Krampus comes back at the end of the 1900s as a celebration in Europe, and now today, okay, super creepy. And Bill, we've talked about this before. They, he comes out, and everybody dresses up, or a lot of people dress up like Krampus on Krampusnacht, and they come out and run around and scare the bejesus out of little kids.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen some
and
footage of these.
costumes, these are lifelike, goat-headed, horrific beasts.
Yeah, and the parents walk their kids out, these little toddlers, willy-nilly, and these kids are just like screaming with red face and their mouths open, crying. I'm like, why would you do that?
I promise I'll be good.
Oh, my God.
That's why they're doing it, Bill.
Did we have fun today?
But these things are horrific. If you don't listen to me, we're going to the Krampus parade.
No!
No! And I might leave you there.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, Kev,
Yeah, I
that...
got this picture. So imagine in your head that it's titled A St. Nicholas Procession with Krampus and other characters circa 1910.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my goodness. This is like, what a creep fest in front of this thatch roof barn.
Oh, my God. Not exactly Charlie Brown Christmas.
Not exactly.
Oh, man.
And then I have right next to it, I'll put up a picture of St. Nicholas with 12 Krampuses in Berchtesgaden land in Germany in 2016.
Boy,
And it's
boy.
an absolute creep fest.
Oh, man. I guess it's still going on today, right? I mean,
Definitely.
yeah.
They're back after COVID. Krampus
Yeah.
Fest.
I guess they had Krampus with a mask on for a couple of years.
Yeah. And it's shocking. Like in the footnotes, and like references for the articles I've read, one of the sightings is Goat Man,
Oy.
a malevolent figure in urban folklore originating in Maryland in the United States. I don't know how they would link Krampus to Goat Man.
Geez, they don't exactly look alike, do they? Oh, man.
Down to the glowing red eyes.
Oh, man, alive. Yeah, and I've seen some of these costumes. I mean, these people are like, professionals.
Oh, yeah. They're Hollywood quality. Like, if you saw one of these folks, I am not kidding, I would have a hard time knowing if this was a real demonic creature mixed in with the parade or a person that's dressed up.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
they do the eyes and everything. Like, kind of have those cat-like contact lenses in,
Yeah.
peering through these skull-like masks. I mean, it's a creep fest. Check out the pics.
Yeah.
You'll love them.
You'll love them, I promise. Oh,
So Merry
dearie.
Christmas.
Freaking Krampus, boy, oh boy. I'm still whacked out over that 15-foot tall dog man with the blood in the head.
I am too.
That is just like nuts.
I'm hoping somebody sends us those pics. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I may have to venture back there.
Really?
Maybe on Krampus not.
Yeah. I think maybe one day if you're swinging by that neighborhood on a nice day, you should make it a point to snap the picture if you can, you know what I mean? Boy, that's freaking creepy, man.
I thought you were going to say stop in with an AR-15 on my back.
Bop, 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 bop. All right. Well, I tell you, Kev, that was pretty cool. And always welcoming the Twas the Night Before Christmas. one of my favorite old Christmas poems with a little bit of a twist on it.
I know. I love the original, but I do like our version as well.
Yeah, it's a little stank, a few weapons.
Yeah, maybe I have to put a little stank in it next year.
Oh my God! Well, I tell you what, I have a really interesting account here, a fascinating account of multiple sightings that was told to me by Summer Fitzgerald, a fella that's an old timer from the state of Oregon. And this is what Summer had to share. In the late 60s and early 70s, up until the point where the state of Oregon had banned us from continuing, there were quite a few intrepid individuals who were digging hell's bells in the area of Necahoney Mountain and Whale Cove in the hope of finding Sir Francis Drake's buried treasure. It was long believed then, and still to this very day, that the explorer Sir Francis Drake had hidden quite a stash of gold in the region, and we had made it our business to find it. Now, folks, I just want to stop for a second. I knew nothing about this, and I want anybody who has knowledge of this to contact me, give me some verification, and perhaps some personal input into what I'm going to get into here. At that time, as well as now, if you were to snoop around the base of the mountain, you would find many holes as evidence of the work that was once being done in the area. This was extremely tough terrain back then, and many rough dirt trails and roads were carved into the woods in order to gain access to the area, with some fairly formidable equipment for digging. I think the strangest thing about what I'm about to say to you, Bill, is the number of sightings which had occurred in the years we were there, and the numbers of men who had experienced them. I myself and the crew I was with had two, which I will tell you about. But collectively, I would say that there were dozens that were both shared and spoken about by many other treasure hunters in the same area. The fact of the matter was and is that when you experience something firsthand, it really doesn't matter anymore what anyone else thinks. You know what happened simply because you experienced it yourself, regardless of what anyone else thinks. Touché on that, brother. What I will describe as being the first sighting had actually occurred in two stages, which I will explain to you. We had a small crane in the woods that was at the time about as big as a well drilling truck, if you know what they look like. The truck had tandem axles on the rear, and the crane's boom was only 30 feet or so. We also had a backhoe and these two were our machines for digging. It was midday as the four of us were standing around the hole as Manny was operating the crane. There was a fair amount of noise being generated as Dennis shouted something that made us all look. I have to say that at the time, I personally saw nothing, while two of the other guys had actually caught a fleeting glimpse of what Dennis claimed to have seen. Manny had turned the crane off and jumped down to where we were as Dennis began to talk about seeing a hair-covered behemoth that stood up behind some bushes and walked into the trees out of sight. As Dennis was describing what sounded like a monster, Joe had concurred that he saw the backside of it just as it disappeared from view. We had said it must have been a spy from one of the other groups on the mountain, but they were insistent that it was way too large to be a man, and it was kind of left at that. Joe and Dennis couldn't shut up about it throughout the entire day, and each day that followed, which, to be quite honest with you, had become somewhat of a drag to the rest of us, having seen nothing. At any rate, about 2 weeks later, we were only a couple of 100 feet from where we had been on that day. We were coming into the site to work early in the morning, and as we rounded the final turn on the trail, after which the work site was in full view, it was then that all of us saw a hair-covered monster stepping away from the crane and trotting up the hill out of view within the trees. As you would imagine, there was cussing and shouting going on as Dennis shouted, "I told you so, I told you so." Well, he had told us, and now we had seen it for ourselves. Joe and Dennis were both saying that it was the same monster they had seen. Since the rest of us had seen nothing, this was all we had to go by. It was certainly not a man. And after we had made it to the crane and exited the truck, I remembered how high its head appeared relative to the crane's motor and its casing, which were mounted on the flatbed. The top of the engine cover was close to 8 feet in height, and this thing's head was higher than that by some 2 feet. Its body was as thick as a fuel drum, and it had extremely long and thick arms. Standing by the truck, I realized that it had covered about 50 feet to get under the cover with maybe 4 or 5 steps. There were some impressions in the soil where it had been standing, but none of them were of a complete foot. Rather, they were more of a heel-toe scenario, but from what we saw, these feet were massive. We also had concluded that this monster had been alongside of the truck and looking at it. For what reason, we didn't know, but from the compaction of the soil around the side of the motor, it had either been standing or pacing around in that spot for quite a while. After all of this excitement had waned over many weeks and months, we had seen nothing further of the beast, and had made a decision based on some additional research having been done to head down to the area of Whale Cove to continue our hunt. We were well back in the timber, which begins above the bluffs on the ocean, when on this particular morning, before any of the machinery had been started, we'd been standing around drinking coffee and smoking. Suddenly, there was a tremendous commotion within the trees, and some small bushes and trees began rustling and thrashing about. The morning, by the way, was completely and utterly still, not even a whisper of wind, when without warning, as all of our eyes were fixated on the bushes, this monster rose from within them and began swaying back and forth from side to side, for about 15 seconds or so. In my mind, I thought it was a different creature, although similarly sized to the other one we had seen. Well, the other guy said it was the same one we had seen up north. By the way, we had driven many miles south to get to where we now were, and the thought to me of the first having traveled to where we were currently was preposterous. I thought also that this second one was a more reddish color than black, a fact which the others disagreed with me about. If there was in fact more than one of these things wandering about, it was blowing my mind. This thing, to my way of thinking, had definitely done this to get our attention, after which it exposed itself to us. There's no other rational way to put it, having violently made its presence known by the shaking of the bushes. And while we were all looking directly at the area, it had stood right to its feet, exposing itself fully to us. It made no effort whatsoever at remaining hidden. It wanted to see us and for us to see it, and that's the way I saw it. This time I had seen it front on when standing at perhaps 150 feet away. Part of its body was in the shade, and part of it was being lit up by a ray of sun coming through the canopy, kind of flashing in and out like zebra stripes as it rocked left and right. Its body was massive and fairly uniform, being about 3 feet wide at its hips and chest. It was broad as a young sequoia. Its head and shoulders appeared as one. When it turned away, its entire body turned at virtually the same time. Absolutely incredible. That was many years ago, and sadly, I believe I'm the only one of the group left. I realize that this is, for many, a hard pill to swallow. This monsters in the woods thing. But having said that, when you set eyes on one of these creatures for yourself, it most certainly will change your life forever. At the time, we thought there was an isolated little group of these things living near to where we were. But to hear all the stories and tales being told today, I had to share mine with you. What do you think of that, Kev?
Whoa.
Have you ever heard about any of this St. Francis Drake treasure burial up in that area?
No, of course I've heard of the Explorer, but no, I have not heard of the treasure out there.
Yeah, and he made it sound holes all over the area, and thinking that at first blush, this may have been a spy sneaking up on their camp to see what they were doing. You know, a fellow treasure hunter trying to get the up on somebody.
Right.
And, but I thought to myself, what are weird things? Sir Francis Drake burying treasure up in Oregon. I don't know if there's any veracity to the story at all, but it would be really far-fetched just to offhandedly mention such a thing and have it be a total whim, you know?
I agree.
So, but interesting, had this two creatures being seen, one kind of hanging around a truck, another one being seen when the guy shouts, probably the same one, and then miles away at Whale Cove, this other one, obviously, as he said, wanted to be seen.
Right.
You know, I mean, you don't just sneak up on people in the bushes and make a commotion and then rise to your feet while they're looking at you if you don't want to be seen. Very bizarre set of circumstances, huh?
I am with you there, man. Totally bizarre.
So, again, if anybody knows anything or can add anything to this account, you know, Bigfoot Terror in the Woods, sightings and encounters.com. Go over there, hit the contact button and chime in with us about the story I just read to you. Very interesting, though. You know, I mean, these creatures are out there, man. And like he said at the time, having seen it, they were like, oh, whatever they are, there must be a couple of 2 or 3 or 4 of them around here. But now he's saying, you know, based on what he hears now, you know, it seems like there's quite a few more. Either that or they're like saying squatch and they're zooming from one place to another in the blink of an eye.
Awesome. Awesome. And our listeners are going to love that account as well, because it had several times you had to mention the great state of Oregon.
Yeah, yeah. And I said it right again, didn't I, Kev? Oregon?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, I'm good with that stuff.
Perfect. Awesome. Great account, though.
Yeah, no, fascinating, really fascinating. And they keep pouring in. Remember, folks, if you've seen something, say something. Same thing, BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com. Hit the contact button. I will be glad to reach out with you or to you, and we will have a discussion about what it is you have seen or encountered.
Awesome.
So what do we have, Kevin? Listener mail.
Oh, we have some great listener mail this week, Bill. First one comes in from John from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. And thank you, John, for the pronunciation guide for your city. My reputation precedes me. John writes, I have just found your podcast this week, and it has already become my favorite podcast. I really enjoy listening to the old-time accounts of the wild man. I believed in Bigfoot ever since I could read, and I saw my first book on Bigfoot in the library and read the encounters that were pretty scary as a kid, and I must admit, still scary as an adult. I bought the first book of Bigfoot Terror in the Woods, and I look forward to reading it and the series. I live in Chippewa County of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, or UPA. And I've heard of sightings in our area and talked to farmers who have come across large tracks going across their fields.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that were not made by any man or animal that they have known about. Again, I love the podcast and the stories and the encounters. John from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. So, John, by the way, up there in the UPA, watch out for the dog man.
Yeah. Hey, and by the way, Johnny boy, can you pronounce Brooklyn? Hey, Adrian!
It's all good. It's all good.
You know, in the Upper Peninsula, I've spoken to a number of people up there, and you know, these people, sparsely populated area, to a person, talk like, you know, this is like regular lore up there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so-and-so, you know, you're talking to them and they're like, well, my friend Kevin, who lives over here, had one that was frequenting his land. And then my grandmother, who used to have a house down here, used to horseback ride and saw one walking down by the creek all the time. I mean, it's like a regular happening.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I don't know how you avoid that. You know, is everybody full of beans? I mean, it's just like a commonplace thing, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the guys working over here at the copper mines used to talk about them creating mischief around their tools and things. And
those mischievous ghouls.
Yeah, I mean, come on, people. It's like me telling you about the deer that walk in my yard. You know, I see them all the time. And I'm not saying they're like deer, but it's spoken about like a reasonably common occurrence, not a one-off, but something that has been seen and shared by numerous people if you could get to talk to them and get them to talk to you.
Yeah.
So that's bizarre, man. And thanks for chiming in with us, man. That's
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, and our next letter comes from Philip, and Philip has some suggestions of other cryptids in the news stories, which we love suggestions, folks. So Philip writes, here are some suggestions for your cryptids and other oddities in the news. And he says the Villisca axe murders, which I have not heard of that, but I will look into it. And the Louisiana/Alabama axe murders and the Yorkshire Ripper. Says not exactly cryptids, but definitely very interesting stories.
Well, could be a little bloodlust there going on, Philip.
I mean, he may have a little something for the axe.
Axes, hatchets.
What? No axes?
Hey, I can't read this. There's no axe murder in here.
And then Bill Chris from Missouri, the home of the beloved Momo.
Kev, I have to correct you. It's Missouri.
I know.
Get it right.
Like the outlaw Josie Wales says. Time for a Missouri ferryboat ride.
I love that cat.
Well, Chris, you had me at the subject.
Yeah.
Tales of the Black-Eyed Children. And Chris writes, hey guys, I ran across this interesting article by Nick Redfern regarding our favorite little creepy kids. A couple of these stories are quite interesting, and they shed some light on the possible intent of black-eyed children. And one guy actually let them into his house.
Obviously a madman.
Oh, my God. Well, hey, what's the harm? They only wanted something to eat, right?
Sure. Cookies and milk.
And then Chris writes, I just wanted to let you know that I look forward to your show every week. And I try to give you 5 stars on Apple Podcast whenever I can. Keep it going, guys. Love the show.
Yeah, come on in, little guys. Are you cold? You want to sit down? You want a blankie?
And folks, one of the images I'm posting, that's it for the listener mail, but this is related to mail. One of the images I'm posting, you have to check it out. Maybe get reprints of it, on Shutterfly or something like that, and use it as a Christmas card. So this image, Bill, is of a Christmas card from the early 1900s.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm going to describe it to you. So there's this little girl, maybe about 3 or 4 years old, with a pretty little green dress sitting on the floor with a basket of apples and sweets in front of her on her lap.
Uh-huh.
And then next to her is this basket, like a basket backpack of sorts. So a woven basket with 2 straps on it hanging down.